The Active in Tech podcast is about how health and fitness are more important than ever in this modern world. Computer screens, new technologies, and the chronic stress we face in our lives and our jobs make being active a necessity for health and happiness. I'll be interviewing business owners, athletes, and modern-day superheroes who have chosen to take control of their health. We'll dive deeper into the benefits they notice from being active, how they stay active despite the stressors of the modern world, and some tips and tricks they use to be successful in their lives. In this very first episode, I'm joined by Nana Janashia, founder of Tech World with Nana. She's a leader in the DevOps space with currently over 800,000 subscribers on her YouTube channel. If you're in DevOps, you know Nana. Thank you, Nana, for willing to come here and talk about health and fitness, even though I know your main thing is tech and DevOps. So if you can just introduce yourself quickly so people can get an idea of what you are and who you are.
Yeah, thanks, Michael, for inviting me. So this is actually, for me, a challenging question where people ask, like in a small talk, like, what do you do? So I start to count all the things and list all the things that I do. So basically, I'm a DevOps and cloud engineer. That's my background. And I founded, I started a YouTube channel called Tech World with Nana, where I basically started sharing my painful experiences with different, very complex technologies in the area. And I basically knew that the challenges and difficulties that I had learning these technologies and applying them to projects. So I knew 100% that a lot of people could benefit from my findings and my learnings. So that's how I started the YouTube channel. It resonated with way more people than I could ever imagine when I started the channel. So right now we are at 800,000 subscribers, where initially my wildest imagination was if we hit like 100,000 people, like that's gonna be crazy. So that we're way over that already, and our channel is growing, which for me as a DevOps engineer, I'm also super happy that I actually make people excited about DevOps engineering. We basically then built a whole educational program, and I don't like to call it business because business usually sounds like it's something bad. So basically the whole program and community around it so turned into this company when we have freelancers working with us on these courses. So it's this whole full-time thing that we're doing right now. And health investments and a lot of other things that I'm actually interested about, kind of like on top of all of these things that I do.
Yeah, well, it sounds like you've been busy, and this keeps you busy full time. So I guess my next question is, and first of all, I've studied a lot of your videos, especially with Docker and Kubernetes, and they helped me like tremendously get into the DevOps profession I'm in now. So that's pretty cool, and it's just cool to have that you have an impact on so many people. So along with that impact, I'm sure you're really busy, and so my next question is: do you ever experience that you don't have enough time for your health and fitness, or that you need to make sure you're intentional about your health and fitness so that you can keep on track with those goals?
Yeah, so I had this in the first year, our first year of full-time working on content on YouTube, and also it was a time where I was still doing a lot of consulting in DevOps area, so it was a lot of work, and especially because we had the momentum that we're building at the beginning, and we were basically saying yes to every offer, and that the first year I basically was 100% focused on the channel and on the courses, and I remember I was not exercising at all. I was not doing anything for my health. So the next year was when I realized, okay, this is the difference was in the first year. My approach was like, we have the momentum. We found something, so we have to be as fast as possible. So the next year actually kind of took a step backwards, and I realized if I want this to last and I want this to become a long-term thing, then I can't work myself to the burnout point. It's not sustainable to work without caring about your health, without taking breaks, without taking a step backwards for a long period of time. So my idea was, this is not a sprint, this is a marathon, right? So I'm just gonna I'm just going to treat this as just the continuous process of making the next step and the next step and the hitting the next goal and next milestone. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to incorporate the health stuff and making sure that I have energy, making sure I'm actually enjoying this stuff, making sure I'm happy and actually just happy about my life, my business, my health. So I try to decide what are the important things that I want to always have in my life. And health is obviously a top, because if you don't have health, you can't work, you can't do anything, right?
Right.
So I kind of set those a few priorities, and I decided I'm gonna prioritize each of them equally. It's not gonna be I'm just gonna work like hard and go full in for like next 1 or 2 years, and then I'm gonna worry about this other stuff. And the paradox thing is that when you make this switch, it doesn't actually reduce anything from your business productivity. It makes you either more productive or you kind of maintain the same productivity, but now you also have your health and you have your energy and you have fun at work. So it was definitely a important shift.
That's awesome. Yeah, I feel like that's one of the big things that people don't really understand who aren't active. If you make time for yourself, you kind of magically get more time with your job because you become more productive and it's easier for you to focus and things like that. So since you started doing those things, what health benefits have you noticed from doing that? Like whether they're physical or mental? I know you said one has been productivity, but are there any other things you've noticed in your life or in your job or wherever that have gotten better?
Yeah, so mental is definitely an important one in terms of not just having better clarity and just being able to do the task better, but just feeling just well-being, right? Just feeling good that you have done this thing, that you know that you're taking care of your health, so you're not worrying about that stuff. Physically, something that I am 100% sure that a lot of engineers can relate is just sitting in front of your laptop in a chair all day, every day. I know a lot of engineers that either at work or just on side projects and hobby projects, they work even on weekends. So they kind of continues throughout the week, and then it goes on to the next week and so on. So that was definitely my problem when I was an engineer, when we were doing the YouTube channel, all this whole thing. So just, I don't know, just the basic things like having back problems and just being uncomfortable just sitting because you don't incorporate enough movement in your daily activities, right? So that was actually a big change where I noticed like I would basically like keep on doing this for days and weeks until I got to the point where I just had back pain. I needed to do something. So at that point I would take a break. I would do yoga multiple times in a week. And then when it kind of healed, I would go back to the routine. So I was like, okay, this is not sustainable. And what I also did, and I'm still doing this now, when you're young, you think you prioritize this stuff less because you're like, I'm still young. Like your body is more adaptable, more adjustable. But when you think about like when I'm 10 years older, then I'm gonna pay the debt of the unhealthy lifestyle or this lack of movement that I'm actually having right now. So when you look at this from this perspective, we're like, okay, I'm not doing it for next week. I'm not doing it so that I feel good next month. I'm also doing it for myself in 10 years, in 15 years.
Right.
Because as you get older and as you kind of let your body, become lazy, become more adaptive to not moving, it becomes worse and you get the results of that over time. So that is something I always think about in terms of why I'm doing and what motivates me to actually do sports and do movement and do enough of this balance, not only sitting and working in front of the laptop.
Yeah, you bring up some good points. and with, well, like you said, like health is wealth. If you're not healthy, you're not going to be able to make any money. And as you get older, you age naturally. But if you stay active, you can add, years of healthy. You can add healthy years to your life, which is really invaluable. And yeah, it's a lifelong journey. But if you're consistent with it, like you are with everything else, with your job, then you'll see the results over time. So, what does like a workout? What are some of the workouts you do? You said you do yoga. Do you go to the gym? Like how many days a week do you go to the gym?
Yeah, so I don't do yoga anymore.
Okay.
I think I'm too impatient for yoga. I would say that. So I just did that to kind of target exactly the
Okay.
problems, the issues that I had. Um, what I started 2 years ago, kickboxing. So that was like and what you said is like this is the most important thing. It's not what you do. It's not how often you do it, like per week. It's the consistency.
Hmm.
Like when I decide to say like I'm gonna do kickboxing, I'm gonna do yoga, I'm gonna do sports, I always do it only if I know that I'm gonna do it over next at
Yeah.
least 2-3 years. If I know that I'm not gonna be able to do that, I don't start at all, right? So that's always my like if I start this, it's gonna be consistent. So I started doing kickboxing. I have been very consistent about it. Like I started I think with once a week, which was like I literally could not move like the next 2 days because it was just too much.
Yeah.
I think it was like from 0 to like 100. So my body had to adjust. Then I switched to like twice a week. And this year, actually, beginning of this year, I did a gym to that because I wanted more consistency and I
Hmm.
wanted to make it more regular than just twice or 3 times a week. So what I decided to do is basically I signed up for a gym which is near my place. So in the morning I wake up at 5:40 ish. Because the gym opens at 6, so I make sure that I'm there when the gym opens, and I do like my lightweight workout. It's not like too crazy, but it's not also like too low key.
Hmm.
Something in the middle
Yeah.
that gives me energy and some movement for the rest of the day. And also I do that in the morning because psychologically when you have so many things to do, you're not stressed that you're taking time to exercise because you have like 5 people waiting on your
Hmm.
team waiting for your replies and you have students asking for different stuff. It's like I'm just going to do it in the morning where I don't have to stress about
Yeah.
my other stuff, and I'm done at around 7 and I can still have the rest of the day for work.
Hmm.
And I try to do that consistently 4, 5, 6 times a week
Okay.
plus kickboxing. So I think it's a good
Yeah.
combination.
Yeah, and I think yeah, consistency. I think how you started off, even though you were only doing it once a week, you were taking small steps and building upon that, and making sure every step of the way was sustainable. And I think that's like what you said. That's one of the most important things. I think is if you if you don't see yourself doing this for years to come, like there's no reason to even try it. Like I know some people are into like the carnivore diet or the keto diet, um, and a lot of people start that, but they don't think about whether or not it's sustainable. So they start this diet and it's like way too hard, so then they just stop. So you need to choose something that's sustainable for you. And so
Yeah.
speaking of diets and stuff, what is your diet like? Do you subscribe to any sort of diet model, or do you just eat whatever you want, or do you try to eat like colorful foods? Like what is it that you do?
Yeah, so my diet is kind of like I'm not very intentional about my diet, but I naturally end up eating pretty healthy, I would say. Like it's not like any specific direction or like
Hmm.
keto diet or whatever, but it's like very balanced, I would say. So I try to um, I try to pay attention to a couple of things. For example, not eating junk food, not drinking any soda drinks, drinking a lot of water. Things like not having trying not to have sugary desserts right in the morning. So this kind of stuff. I'm not very strict about it because I have never been. But yeah, so nature. So basically, the last time I mentioned this actually when I was talking to you. But the thing is, for me, I just feel bad when I put some really low quality bad food or drinks in my body. I just feel naturally bad about it, and I just not just taste wise, but I just like the feeling of eating healthy food whenever possible.
Yeah.
And for me, it's not like I'm craving pizza or I'm craving McDonald's. I'm like, I like healthy food. I like how it tastes, and I feel good about eating healthy food. So
Yeah.
kind of naturally end
Yeah.
up having a normal
Right.
diet.
No, and I think it can be as simple as that because when you like there are certain things that you shouldn't eat, like the sugary,
Yeah,
processed, whatever foods. And then when you're active, especially when you're going to the gym that often, you're naturally you probably crave like healthier foods because and your body knows that you'll feel better and they'll help you recover better than eating all this junk. And like processed foods have a negative effect on your cognitive abilities too. So yeah,
yeah, that's the thing. Yeah. So because I also notice immediately, like when I drink a lot of alcohol, maybe it's like a party or event or whatever, or when I have energy drinks, or like I know that I've eaten or drink something unhealthy, I immediately feel the effects of it. Like I have low energy, maybe I'm tired, I can get the work done. So then it goes back to I actually need the energy. I have stuff to do and I would like to do this kind of stuff. So it's not worth for me to kind of eat unhealthy food because I feel like it, because it then kind of interferes with my other goals, which is I need to actually have a productive day and not feel sleepy or low energy the whole day.
speaking of sleep, how many hours of sleep would you say you get each night? Do you do well with sleep? Is that something you struggle with because you're so busy, or is that an easy thing for you?
Yeah, so sleep is something that I have definitely hacked around during my life because so I'm not sure whether it's true or not, but I actually believe that there are different people need different hours of sleep, different amount of sleep, whatever. I'm one of the people, unfortunately, that need a lot of sleep, so I feel that as well. Like immediately when I'm sleep deprived, everything kind of reduces, right? My cognitive ability, my productivity, and so on. So 8 hours is probably like consistently. I need to be sleeping around 8 or even more hours. Um, like that's an interesting part in like what you mentioned because I know a lot of business people, I know a lot of busy people who have a lot of things going on, like probably with the same level of, I would call it stress, but
Hmm.
like things that I have to do. There are a lot of people who actually have troubles falling asleep because their mind just continuously keeps
Hmm.
thinking about stuff, right? Because of course, at the end of the day, each day I know that I have 100 open things for the next day and
Hmm.
for the whole week and for the next week,
Yeah.
projects, deadlines, whatever. I actually find it really easy to shut off and kind of switch to end of the day,
Hmm.
time to sleep. So I happily and fortunately I don't have any trouble kind of shutting my mind and not thinking about tomorrow's to
Yeah.
dos and next week's to dos when the day is over. So on that sense, I'm really happy that I actually get quality sleep. So it's not like I wake up in the middle of the night multiple
Yeah.
times thinking about my open to dos.
Hmm. Right. No, that's great. Yeah, I'm the same way. I need like 8 hours of sleep. I wish I was one of those people that don't. I know there are some people that only need like 6 hours of sleep or whatever, and they're totally fine. But if I get
Yeah,
6 hours of sleep, it's game over for me. I'm no good. But I think so. I think a lot of things contribute to good sleep, but I do think proper diet and activity help you go to sleep. So for me, like I'm active and I eat well, and I think that helps me sleep better. I mean, there are a lot of other things that go into that, but sleep should be important for people. Like I remember when I was studying to become a DevOps engineer, if I didn't get my sleep, I didn't retain the information as well. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, obviously you don't need any help in like the health and fitness area, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to talk with you is because I feel like you've got it together in that way, and it really helps your performance in life and in business. So with that being said, your business is doing super well, but I want to know how you define success for yourself.
So yeah, that's a very good question. For me, so basically, before I started this whole thing, right? So YouTube channel and the business and all this stuff, I was very intentional of what I wanted to have. Like it wasn't like specifically, I didn't mention it's gonna be YouTube channel and it's gonna be exactly this, but I always had high ambitions. I always had goals. I always had like I want to get there. Like this is my goal. So as I progressed through these phases and I achieved the one of the milestones and the next one and built a successful thing, the definition of success changed also a little bit, right? So, and it also reflects in my daily schedule, for example, and how I changed the way I work. So before I had that successful business, for me, the success was the definition of success, if you had asked me, was I want to have this business with this amount of revenue, profit, whatever. I want to, like, it was all work related, outcome, result oriented, right?
Right.
When I actually achieved that, which was my goal and dream for years, actually since I was a teenager, right, from high school, the change to it's not about the outcome, one-time outcome that you achieve at 30 or at whatever arbitrary age. It's about how does your day look like? How does your week look like, right? In terms of, are you free to do what you want to do? Do you have enough resources, time, money to do what you want to do? Do you feel happy? Are you like, it's really a combination of all these things. And also, I also believe that success is not that you actually arrive there and you get there. For me, it's like, it is exciting to get up every single day because I know that, sure, I'm here and I'm super happy and stoked about it, but I'm also super excited for the next step and for the 2 steps after and for the 10 steps after. So that's also part of success definition, not to have arrived at the top, but still have the kind of the next steps to go, because that keeps you excited, that keeps you alive. Like all these next milestones and goals, not only business-wise, not only like next financial success, but also like, I'm going to learn this new skill. I'm going to do this new sport. I'm going to try this new thing. I'm going to, create or manage and organize an event for my friends and family. Like all these things that excite you, that you're planning in the future. Yeah. So it's really the combination of, like, again, how your day feels like, how your week feels like, how your month feels like overall.
Yeah, no, I like that. You're intentionally living in the moment while also looking forward to the future. I think that's pretty cool. So I think we're almost done here. I could go on and ask you like a million questions about what you do for your health and fitness, but I want to know, what advice would you give to someone who works in tech and wants to get healthier but doesn't know where to start? What advice would you give them there?
Yeah, so the starting point is always like this. Starting point is always the most difficult one, right? Like the first step, the getting started. I think the best advice, and this is what I apply in my own practice all the time. It doesn't matter whether it's starting sport, doing sports, or learning something new. It doesn't matter. It applies to everything. Is start small. Do not overdo it, because you're not gonna, like, if you overdo it and if it feels overwhelming at the beginning, there's a high chance that you're gonna stop. And this happens very often with diet. It happens with sports. People are like super excited. They see some videos and they just plan next week with 6 workouts with I don't know how many weights and stuff like this. So start small and have this long term in mind. What motivates me, and this could be different for different people, but what motivates me is when I see like this is my limit. Like when I started sports, like my limit was I could only work out once in a week because I could physically not do the second time. It was just too stressful. And that was actually exciting for me because I knew that I have all this room for improvement. Like I can improve and increase my physical ability, and that difference was actually exciting. Like let me stick to this long enough to see the progress, to see the results. So when I noticed, okay, I'm actually way more performant, like my physically more able, like that was like, this is cool. Like I actually made progress. Let's see the next step where I can go from here. So starting small and then looking towards or looking forward to the improvements and seeing your progress is way more effective because it helps you do it more consistently than just starting full on right at the beginning and then maybe quitting after 2 weeks because it's too overwhelming.
Yeah. No, that's some really great advice. I think if people followed that advice, they would see results. I mean, obviously it's a lifelong, it takes time. You're not going to just suddenly like have a 6-pack or whatever your goal is the next day. But I think taking small steps is key. And
and I think it's also the way you approach your goal, right? So as you said, a lot of people maybe may start exercising because they want a 6-pack, right? So when you are so obsessed of getting a 6-pack as soon as possible, you're like, it's gonna make it really difficult for you to stick to it because every day, like every week, you're gonna be like, do I have a 6-pack already? Do I have it already? Right? And then like you become impatient about your, the work that you put in because you are fully focused on the results and you're kind of ignoring the process. But when you switch your mindset and you're like, I'm doing it for the 6-pack, whatever your goal is, but I'm also doing it to feel healthy, to feel good about myself, to get this excitement from making the progress, right? Then it's not only about the result and you're not impatient because now it's also about the process, right? So you're like, oh, this actually feels good. And this is another thing because with sports, which is so cool, and so helpful, because if you stick to it long enough, it actually develop, like you actually notice that after doing sports, you have this bump in your mood, right? You feel happier during the day. And when you do it long enough, you actually, start craving for it consistently because like you're gonna feel good afterwards. Even if the exercise itself feels bad, you're like, I know I'm gonna feel good afterwards. So it makes it way easier to continue doing it because you want that feeling, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of people sometimes don't get there because they quit too early until they reach that point.
Yeah, and that's one of the most like powerful concepts in psychology, I think, classical conditioning. This is kind of besides the point.
Yeah.
Have you heard of like Pavlov's dogs? Have you heard of that? Okay, so they ring a bell.
Yeah, rings a bell.
They ring a bell. They give the dogs food or whatever. First, they ring a bell, and it doesn't do anything to the dogs because they don't associate it with anything. Then they start ringing the bell before they give the dogs food, and then they salivate or whatever when they hear the bell. And I feel like it's kind of the same thing. Like you associate working out with that feeling you get afterwards, so then you want to work out.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's another great point. I feel like you're strategizing and how you learn things in your tech career and your DevOps is also like apparent that you're able to problem solve and strategize in your life in terms of health and fitness too. And I don't know, I just find that super impressive. Not many people are so well rounded, and that's one of the reasons I wanted to interview you because you're just super well rounded.
Thank you. Thanks.
Yeah.
I think the reason for that is because I do, or I have been doing a lot of self-observation. It's super interesting for me, right? So I have like whenever, for example, before starting a YouTube channel, we actually had 2 failed startups, right?
Okay.
So for me, the approach was, of course, it's painful when you work on something and it fails and you see that there's no progress and you have to move to the next project, right? But again, for me, it wasn't like, okay, I failed, such a bummer, I have to go back to work. For me, it was like, cool, what can I learn about myself from this failure? So I would actually observe myself, think like, okay, wasn't it exciting for me, or what part was not exciting for me? What led to failure? What type of tasks should I do in the future to make sure that this doesn't happen? I also observed in terms of, or did like self-analytics in terms of what are my weaknesses and what are my strengths, so I can focus more on this kind of stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
And becoming self-aware about this kind of stuff actually gives you way more control of how you should structure your day, in terms of career or job or whatever you do, like how to structure your life so that you get the most optimal result, because you understand yourself and how you take or how you react to things. So I think it's super, super interesting when you have this information, because it gives you so much more control.
Yeah, no, that is really interesting, and you bring up a good point of failing forward, learning from your mistakes and implementing that into your next thing. Yeah, I love that. So are there any final thoughts you'd like to share? And also, I want to make sure to ask where people can find you on social media.
Mostly YouTube. That's the biggest platform that we have. But if they want to see more like this behind the scenes view of what we are doing, what I'm up to, usually that would be LinkedIn or Instagram, basically where I post a lot of the behind the scenes content about everything basically that interests me. So that would be the best place to connect with me and see what I'm doing.
All right. Yeah. Well, thank you very much for being on my podcast. You were the first guest.
Awesome.
Yeah. So
Thank you.
yeah. Well, I'm sure I'll see you on YouTube, and I like to follow you on LinkedIn. So I'll see you around.
Cool.
All right.
Thanks.
Thanks.